Dear colleagues, let us introduce the results of our study conducted by me, Elizaveta Shevchenko. I am a PhD of linguistics at Immanuel Kant Baltic Federal University, which is located in the city of Kaliningrad, the Russian Federation, and my colleague T Kuzennaya, who is also a PhD researcher, and she teaches Russian philology at Immanuel Kant Baltic Federal University. So our topic today is linguistic education and AI, the current state and the development prospects. The power of artificial intelligence is gradually covering all areas of human life. In October 2019, the National Strategy for the Development of Artificial Intelligence for the period until 2030 was adopted and approved in the Russian Federation. A tremendous amount of work was done to create the strategy. Experts were involved in a wide range of areas that are important from the point of view of the development of artificial intelligence: professors, algorithms, software, and data. We all separately considered industries in which AI can be applied fairly quickly. First of all, according to many experts, these are medicine, transport industry, smart cities, robotics, and of course education. Artificial intelligence will seriously change the field of education, said UNESCO Director General Audrey Azoulay. Teaching methods, modes of learning, access to knowledge, and teacher training will undergo revolutionary changes because artificial intelligence has the potential to accelerate the achievement of global education goals by reducing barriers to access to learning, automating management processes, and optimizing methods for improved results training. GPT chat, one of the main events of 2022. This is an artificial intelligence that can carry on conversations with people and answer almost all the questions. Recently, the Russian educational community was shocked by a story when a student from one of the Moscow universities wrote a thesis using GPT chat and successfully defended it. The machine prepared 60 pages of text for him, while the anti-plagiarism system called the work 82% original, as journalists later on found out. The story caused a lot of noise in the teaching community. Most educationalists were inclined to cancel the results. However, there were also those who supported the guy. After all, he didn't break any laws. As a result, the students still received a diploma. And this, of course, was a challenge for the educational system. Of particular interest to linguist teachers at the Immanuel Kant Baltic Federal University, who engage in translation of texts from Romano-Germanic, modern and ancient Slavic languages in their classes, is the possibility of using elements of the new digital didactics, by which we mean a branch of pedagogy aimed at organizing the educational process in digitalization of society. Digital didactics uses traditional didactics principles and basic concepts, but transforms and complements them, adapting them to modern realities. It is the basis for building modern teaching methods and strategies. At the forefront of machine translation development currently are OpenAI's generative pre-trained transformers, GPT series, as well as Google's Bard and Microsoft's Azure AI. The language model underlying the tools works by predicting the probability of a word's occurrence given by previous words and uses the mechanisms to then generate coherent and contextually appropriate sentences. By training on a large and diverse data set, the model is able to understand context, capture nuances, and generate high-quality translations of text from English, for example. An architecture based on the transformation mechanism makes it possible to understand the context and semantic relationships in languages and translate them accordingly. The developers believe that in the longer term, creating models even more advanced than GPT-4 will enable machine translation that is indistinguishable from human ones, capable of capturing and conveying nuances of tone, style, and cultural context that are currently difficult for AI. Thus, the future of GPT lies in developments that promise to bring us closer to a world in which language is no longer a barrier to communication. Moreover, given the potential capabilities of the mechanisms, it is assumed that the field of intercultural communication itself will undergo revolutionary changes. Thus, the combination of OCR technologies and generative pre-trained transformers will allow humanity to carry out oral and written intercultural and interlingual communication without the participation of an intermediary, and in real time, for example, instantly scan and inscription or of large text in an unfamiliar language and received its translation into the native language and instantly generate a ready-made reaction or answer in the target language. And the mechanism can even generate different answer options, giving the communicant a choice. The scheme of oral communication, in which automatic speech recognition system can be involved, will work in a similar way. As for the translation industry, which is already in the process of transformation under the influence of the development of machine translation mechanisms that allow the modern translator to process huge amounts of text in the shortest possible time, shifting the focus of activity from direct translation to the post-editing processes, it is expected that some kind of flexible hybrid GPT cooperation model will be formed, and human translators, each of whom will participate in the process, performing their own unique functions, the speed and ability of machine translation to process arrays of text, and the translator's skills in solving complex linguistics problems. Analyzing the current transformation of the global interlingual communication industry in its individual areas, a number of emerging issues can be outlined. As for the translation industry, we have to underline the following issues. The most common reason for criticism of translation performed by AI is their lack of emotion. The system is insensitive neither to shades of meaning nor to culturally specific contexts, nor to the general context in which the source text was born. The flexibility of human thinking, which is realized through the flexibility and plasticity of linguistic structures and units, is a property that AI systems have not yet been able to teach. Secondly, because the data fed into ChatGPT is cut off a specific date, the AI cannot take into account recent events, which could make the text generated insensitive to the latest facts, the latest cultural and ethical contexts. Languages change over time, and as culture changes, so the problem may get worse as AI ages. Thus, GPT particularly failed to cope with requests for translations of text from Old Russian into Old Church Slavonic languages of the 11th, 20th, 12th centuries. Only common Slavic lexemes that continue to function in modern Russian were translated correctly. These are man, sun, earth, monastery, world, and others. At the same time, archaic stable phrases were translated incorrectly or not translated at all, such as to hold the land in a reign, which is in Russian держать землю в княжении, was translated as to manage a princedom. In the belly, which is in Russian for life, was translated as during life. And in death, which means in the period of death, was translated as after death. Old Russian legal terminology such as vira, sale, was translated as sale, or fines. Veno was translated as dowry. So finalization of the resulting translations still requires students to additionally refer to existing dictionaries of Old Russian and Old Church Slavonic for a complex understanding of such texts. Thirdly, based on the mechanism for predicting the subsequent element of the text, GPT selects from the array of data known to it as the most frequent matches, which may turn out to be stylistically inappropriate. For example, given the prevalence of the variant for naming a dog as pooch, such as dog, mongrel, or dog in English, and this unit can be used in the text of veterinary discourse. So the fourth aspect is the insensitivity of the system to different contexts, which reduces the potential application of the results of its work in the process of localization. Number 5. We have to consider also the ethical component. We know that texts translated by AI are not without bias. The system is unable to independently select gender-neutral units, terms devoid of cultural and socio-economic bias, such as developed countries, for example, instead of not industrialized. GPT answers the question about protecting the confidentiality of information during translation. This is the 6th aspect. GPT 3.5 doesn't store information about specific user requests and responses. OpenAI is committed to the privacy of user information and regularly updates its policies and technical measures to ensure data security. This is what the GPT says itself. So they do not use user data passed through API to train the model. In addition, OpenAI requires its employees to adhere to strict privacy rules. However, it should be noted that GPT-3.5 can use general information available on the internet to provide answers to user queries, and some context can be stored in logs to improve the system and maintain security. Thus, the information entered into ChatGPT is somehow stored somewhere and can be accessed and used without permission from the author or translator. 7. The system is aware of the existence of copyrights and guarantees their observance. However, given the scale of the text arrays on which it is trained, there is no guarantee that the text elements which are used are not protected by copyright and do not require attribution when using them. Speaking about translation training, when comparing the potential problems of using AI in translation and the prospects for transformation of the translation industry itself, one should consider the issue of compliance of the components of modern translator training with the tasks which those students are facing. Firstly, most of the translations performed on the modern market are translations of texts with a rapid life cycle. We mean large volume, short execution time, and so on. Therefore, the emphasis in the training of specialists is shifting towards the development of post-editing skills rather than the secondary generation of texts. Secondly, given the potential challenges of translation AI systems, today's translation specialists must have highly developed skills in carefully and comprehensively analyzing textual material and internal and external context. Thirdly, responsibility for the confidentiality of information, compliance with ethical standards, and knowledge of culturally specific meanings lies with the human translator. Thus, in the process of training a specialist, the key competences that must be developed are the following. Number 1, they have to be able to apply knowledge of foreign languages and knowledge of the patterns of functioning of target languages, as well as use a system of linguistic knowledge when carrying out professional activities. Number 2, they have to be able to apply a system of knowledge about the types, techniques, strategies, technologies, and patterns of translation, as well as the requirements for the translation. Number 3, they have to be able to carry out interlingual and intercultural interaction based on knowledge in the field of geography, history, political, economic, polity, economics, social studies, religion, and cultural life of the countries, of the languages they study, as well as knowledge about their role in regional and global political processes. So, analyzing the experience of using machine translation technologies by students themselves, we identified the following trends in relation to their own practical experience. The formation of the cognitive ability to understand the source text, which is the basic one for the translator's profession, is at a serious risk. 40% of the surveyed students use MT to translate texts that they themselves do not understand, or to ensure that translation decisions which are done by them are correct. Thus, during the learning process, most future translators deliberately remove from their educational experience the opportunity to develop these competences, which I mentioned previously, replacing them with the ability to apply the result. At the same time, the basic competence of understanding the source text is completely deliberately eliminated from the preparation process, from the educational process. Moreover, the requirements of the modern translation industry market, which primarily requires high-quality post-editing skills from specialists, force modern training programs to focus specifically on working with ready-made translation results performed by AI, rather than developing a knowledge system about translation strategies and technologies and techniques. Those educational institutions find themselves in a situation where the necessary basic competences of a specialist are not in demand on the market in their original form, but are in demand only in their transformed shape. Such duality significantly reduces the student's ability to realize the need to develop independent translation skills and creates a gap between the learning process, its result, and the actual conditions of professional activity. Thank you for your attention.